Hey.
So, last night you had a dream.
Yes, I did.
Had a dream last night. So, tell me again about this dream that you had. It's a very weird dream.
Okay. So, let's see if I can remember this dream. Today is October 3rd, 2020. Last night I dreamt.
Today.
Yeah, October 3rd. Yeah, October 3rd.
Yeah.
Okay. So, last night I dreamt something I never dreamt before. Okay, so it was like kind of like a 2-part, but it was together. Okay, so it was this really, really, really big house. And forgive me if I'm all over the place because I got to try to like recall it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it was this really, really big house. I mean, this house was big. And it had a lot of land. And there was a bunch of black people that lived in this house. And they were slaves. But it wasn't like the 18th century. It was like modern day. They had New Balance sneakers. They could drive and stuff like that. It wasn't like not ancient, but you know.
It was like today's
It was
time.
like today's time. So it was a white man, his wife, and they had a baby girl. And the little girl probably was a little less than a year old because she could like sit up. But the little girl couldn't walk because the mama was holding up the baby. So the slaves had decided that they wasn't going to be slaves anymore. And the husband rolled out and left the wife and the baby in the house. So the slaves in the house.
You said it was wrong.
Me too. Yeah. The slaves in the house was able to come and go. So they was in this house a couple of days.
They can come and go.
They can come and go. Like they went to church.
They weren't forced. They weren't forced.
I guess
be there.
I guess they wasn't, or they was able to freely move. They was able to freely move, like because they got in the minivan and they went to Sunday church. They went to church on Sunday, and when they went to church on Sunday, they realized that it was all like a hoax. And it was like you had your pastors and your stuff, your people on the pulpit. But you know, like in the Wizard of Oz, and when they found out the Oz wasn't the real dude, the black Wizard of Oz, and they found out it was Richard Pryor behind the curtain talking.
Yeah.
It was kind of like they figured out it was like a PowerPoint or something. I ain't tell you this funny, but they figured out that it wasn't real, but they stayed and participated anyway. They went back to the house. So the husband, now remember, the husband left. This was a huge house. This house had everything you could want. One room was like a amphitheater, like it was a theater. You had any food, canned goods. It was a massive land. And I remember like lush collard greens growing, like all types of stuff growing, right? So, okay, so remember, they decided they were going to leave. It was a bunch of black folk in here. Men, women, and children.
About how many? How many black folk?
It was hundreds of black folk in this house. So I don't know how they all fit in this house, but the house was huge and it was room. It was like, it wasn't like everybody was in cramped quarters or anything like that. They were in this house and people, it was so big. It was huge. This house was huge. It was beyond a mansion. All these black folk lived there. Kids, men, women, teenagers, all black people. So remember, they decided they didn't want to be slaves anymore. They figured that they just came to that conclusion. And the husband rolled out and the wife and the baby was there. And it was odd that he left the wife and the baby, but he did. Days went by and these black folk was in there partying, cooking, dancing. Like they didn't leave. Like they decided they didn't want to be slaves, but they still stayed. And then while they was in there, like the one room, they may decide we're going to take some canned goods or take stuff out of this room, I guess for themselves. But they were still in there cleaning. Like they would take stuff out that they wanted to keep for themselves, but they had to clean up behind themselves as if they were still functioning as slaves, right? Mm-hmm. So they in there and they partying and they doing whatever for days. And the wife was in there with the baby, and the women would still go in the room for the white lady, and they would still bring her food and cook it for her. Now they said they didn't want to be slaves no more, but they were still doing slave duties. Mm. They went in the room, like I remember vividly, the little baby, a little knit, like a hand knit sweater type cloak or whatever. The girl was putting on the little baby. Hey little baby, and talking to the baby and stuff. taking care of the baby, bringing them food, like taking care of them. They didn't rise up against the women or nothing, right? The lady or nothing. They just still cooking for the woman. They say they didn't want to be slaves, but they still up in this house. And days went by, and I was saying to the people I was there, and I was like, we got to go. We got to get out of here. We can't stay here. And everybody just kept, doing what they were doing, partying, chilling, relaxing, doing, just doing whatever. But they didn't leave, right? So then I finally got with some of the older people. Like, we got to have a meeting. We got to go. And they all went in this room, and they all sat down at this round table. And people kept coming in, interrupted, and the meeting never took place. And they said, we deal with it and whatever. And they left out. I'm like, we got to get out of here. We got to get out of here. So it was me and maybe about 3-4 people that was like in the lower part of this house. I said, y'all, we got to go. We got to go. So I guess we went to crawl like through these little tunnels or whatever. They were round, they were tunnels, and they led to the garden. And just to see what's going on outside. So when I got out my tunnel, it was like 3 tunnels parallel. And it was a lower room, and from that room led the tunnels. So I peeked outside, and I saw like the whole town outside the house gathered with guns, all white folk. And they was like, we don't want to kill them or whatever. And there was so many people out there, they all wanted their turn to kill the slaves that was in the house.
There was nobody that wanted to escape.
So we ran back. We ran back inside. I said, we got to go. So by the time we got back inside, they had already penetrated the house. And a couple of women that was down there with me was like, I can't leave yet. I'm waiting for, I guess, some man or whatever, boyfriend, husband, whoever, to come downstairs. I said, he may not come. Put on your shoes. And I saw like New Balance sneakers and stuff. And nothing was prepared. Nobody had food to go take with them. Nobody had shoes on. Nobody was ready to go because they played around and bull crap. All these days, they decided they wasn't going to be slaves. But they stayed for days. The husband rolled out, so he went to get the army. He went to get the people, right? So it was shoes. If you had one shoe, you probably couldn't fit it or whatever. It's like just scattered shoes in this lower part of the room or whatever. And I was like, come on, we got to go before they come down here, because you can hear them up there shooting and it sounds chaotic. And it was only one, I think it was only one way in and one way out. So as they coming in taking turns, because they was enjoying killing the folk. Everybody wanted a piece. Everybody wanted to be able to go in and kill some people. So some people go in and shoot, and they come out, and other people come in, like they were rotating. Everybody wanted a chance to kill slaves. So I got on my shoes. Nobody left. I got on my shoes. I crawled back through the conduit, and I ran out. I ran out. I didn't have any food or nothing. I'm sitting there telling everybody we got to go, and I was able to get out, but nobody else left. And I was like, I woke up from that dream and I was like, oh my goodness, I ain't never dreamt nothing like that before in my life. It was just interesting. I began to think about.
So you escaped? You went through the tunnel?
I went through the tunnel and I got out and I ran. Because I guess where the land was, it was hilly and it had like greens and stuff growing. And you got to kind of look up and kind of look to the right. And that's where like the entrance of the house and where all the people was gathered. So I guess you couldn't see or whatever. I don't know, but I got away. Nobody chased me or nothing. Or as far as the dream, because I woke up. But it was just crazy. And I just woke up thinking about that dream. It just jolted me for a minute. I'm like, goodness, I ain't never dreamt nothing like that before. And I just began to think about our people and now, present day, how, everybody complaining about Black Lives Matter and stuff like that. But nobody wants to come up out of the system. And we dancing and we jiving around, and even Israel, we jiving around, we playing around, but judgment is coming. And if we don't come up out of this mess, we're going to die with everybody else. Not to say that the white folk that came into that house, they're going to get their judgment too. But, just thinking of us as a people, I'm like, we know we need to come up out of these things, out of sin, turning to the Most High, coming out of this worldly system, but we don't want to let it go. They were in bondage, and even though they said they didn't want to be in bondage no more, they were still doing bondage acts. Y'all was still up in there cleaning. You was still in there feeding that baby and dressing the baby and tending to the white woman. But you said you didn't want to be a slave anymore. You didn't want to be a slave, but you still stayed in that slave house. How much do we do that now in today's time? You know, well, I want rights and I want this, but we won't do anything. We won't turn to the Most High. We won't come out of the system. We won't come together as a people. We won't pull our money out of the system. We stay in this system and we enjoy it and we love it and we dance in it and we party in it and we barbecue in it and we dance around it like they're not trying to kill us. Okay, so that was the dream, and I just thought that dream was just interesting. Even with church, we knew. When they got to church, they realized that church wasn't real, but they stayed and they participated and they worked with the pastors and stuff. It was crazy, and they just went through the motions. Still stayed at the service. They knew it was fake. They still participated. And probably was gonna go back the next Sunday. It was a Sunday, and they stayed. And they knew it wasn't real, and they just participated. They went right back to the slave house, got in the minivan, got in the van. Knew church was fake, still went back to y'all could have kept going about y'all business. You said you ain't want to be slaves. They went back to the slave house.